Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday and welcome to Sunday Brunch. I am Jen and you are here with me and I'm so thrilled to see you all. Now, what is this room setup and why do I have lights behind me? I am in a hotel room. I'm going to try to block out the light and make sure that you've got good visuals, but I have been traveling rather nonstop. I'm in a Residence Inn hotel in Montreal for the next 9 days, coming off of a stint in Calgary, in Edmonton, Ottawa, heading to Toronto in 2 weeks' time. I'm all over the place. So thank you for your patience with me. This is a new format for today, and it is a casual jewelry meetup and chat. And I have some interesting toppings. In fact, we do have some breaking jewelry news that I'm going to share with you all. It's not great news, but I'll share it shortly. First, though, I want to say hello. Hello, Barb. Hello, Jane. Hello, Teresa. Hello, Hannah. Hello, Catherine, Cher. I see so many names. Stephanie, Oat Gems Dallas, it is great to see you all. Aria, Charlene, Lisa, I'm so happy to be here with you all. Hello, Sue. Thank you for making the time. Hello, Christina. Now, what we're going to be covering today is a couple of fun travel tips. I'll tell you a little bit about the adventures and misadventures that I've been up to. We will do some jewelry hunting, and I have found two sellers that I think you're going to be particularly excited about. One is based in the US, and she has some excellent value deals on some pieces that I'm going to share with you today. Something tells me that a few of the items I'll show aren't going to last past this live, so stay tuned. We'll do a little bit of virtual shopping, and if there's anything that you are hoping to see me shop for, by all means, do let me know. I also am going to tell you how I have been buying and sourcing with the crazy cost of gold. In the last year, it's almost doubled or just about doubled, and silver has gone up exponentially too. So we'll talk a little bit about navigating how to collect, how to sell during these times. Hello, hello, Christina. Hello. It is so good to see you all. Now, first, let's start with the breaking news. Message in the chat, have any of you heard about the jewelry heist that happened this morning at the Louvre? It's a little bit of a wild story. It happened at 9:30 a.m. Paris time, well, between 9:30 and 9:50 from what they can piece together. But there was a very brazen theft. There were some people, 3 or 4, that arrived to the Louvre on scooters. Yep, you know those little rental scooters that you can get? And I'm going to share with you an image on how they were able to actually get into the Louvre. So let me share this with you now. This is the image. I hope you can all see it. There's sort of a little bit of a furniture elevator is what they're referring to it as. And this was used to get into the second floor. And what they did was they climbed in and they really targeted 2 specific jewelry cases. And unfortunately, I don't have any images of that. But yes, Barb is right. They were targeting Napoleon, Josephine, and French jewelry. Of course, they were in the Louvre. They managed to get away with 9 pieces. The specifics on the pieces haven't been disclosed yet. However, there was one piece that was abandoned as they escaped because they broke it. And it was indeed a tiara. So that is kind of horrifying. We are waiting, I think all of us jewelry lovers, to hear exactly what was taken. Of course, everyone is putting out, the feelers to make sure that they can try to get these important national treasures back. And never mind the value of the metals, the materials, there's the intrinsic value, but of course there's also the historical and cultural value. So it is shocking. No, Deborah, I don't think it's Arthur Berry. I don't think he can quite get up the scaffolding anymore, but it is wild. Yes, yes. Barb is on the pulse of this. So absolutely wild. Breaking news as of this morning. I'll post some community posts as we hear of some updates. I haven't found any really good videos yet. I think there's a lot of sort of secrecy as they try to figure out exactly what's going on. The Louvre is obviously shut down for the day as they address this, but it is a sad situation. Not news I thought I would be, ever sharing, but apparently there's been quite a rash of thefts based on gold. There is about $700,000 in gold, like intrinsic value gold for melt that was stolen very recently. There's been a lot of thefts really related to the value of metals, as we can see the metals market going absolutely crazy. So maybe that's a bit of a reminder for us all to make sure that we're being cautious with what we have. If you don't have insurance and you have special pieces, it may be worth considering getting insurance or ensuring that you just have a really secure way to store things too. The goal of today is not to fearmonger at all, so we are going to move on. And I'll tell you a little bit about maybe some somewhat amusing stories. So before we get into the jewelry, I wanted to just talk a little bit about what it's like to travel for work. I know that many people have the idea that it's so glamorous and so luxurious. And let me tell you, the last month has been a little bit the opposite. I have had some fun times getting pulled aside at the airport, getting my things checked, baggage swabbed, and I do have a few tips and tricks to share with you. Sometimes I have to tell you, do as I say and not as I do. I have a really bad habit of trying to consolidate things so that I can pack lightly when I do travel, and consolidating vitamins is not the best idea. It is a surefire way to raise eyebrows if anybody's going through your things. Less of a problem if you're traveling domestic, but if you're traveling internationally, bad habit for Jen. These are my vitamins. I take them to stay healthy, especially this time of year. I've got D, B, zinc, multivitamins, and C in there, and I just cram them all together. Not a good idea. Leave things in their labeled bottles. And the other thing, ladies and gentlemen, if you like to have creams and different facial creams, I like to put them in small bottles, including my foundation. That's a no-no. Apparently, that is a common way to carry all sorts of illicit substances. So do not be transferring your things, and hopefully you can avoid getting pulled over in security. Now, when we think about traveling with jewelry, I do want to share something very interesting that most people don't know. When you go through the metal detectors, either the scanners that they use the handheld bar for, or the fun little twist and turn, stand, spread those legs, spread those arms, your gold is not going to set off the metal detector. So if you have earrings, rings, brooches, a necklace or chain on, it is okay to leave it on. In fact, keep it on your body. Do not put your precious metals into the scanner that it's going to pass through. Smart Jane, yes, buy small sample bottles that are labeled when you're going to be traveling. That is a much, much better idea. But always keep your jewelry on you. And so that is kind of one of my key tips when you're traveling with jewelry. I usually pick a handful of key, statement pieces that are going to be on me at all times. I've been traveling with 3 rings. So this is my Bombay retro ring, which we will talk about in the retro special that is coming up on November 9th. 2 bands, a necklace, some earrings, and that is it. And they stay on me the entire time. So that is my preferred method of travel. Now, I wanted to give you a couple travel tips too. How many of you have experienced excruciating pain because you've had to either travel when you've had a head cold or a sinus problem? I often have run into that. And I have found an amazing solution. It is Max earplanes, and I'm going to show you a link on Amazon too. These are essentially earplugs that you put into your ear, you kind of screw them in. You can even place headphones over top of them and still hear sounds. But what they do is they equalize cabin pressure. So you put them in as soon as you board the plane, before they close the door and pressurize the cabin. And then you keep them in until after you've gotten off the plane and had a chance to kind of repressurize in the airport as you either walk towards your luggage or towards your transportation. And it has made the world of a difference. I have not had any problems whatsoever since using these. So let me just quickly share that link for you. I'll share a link in the comments, but this is what they are. They're Max Flight Guard Airplane Pressure Relief Earplugs, and you can get them for about $11. They are reusable, so you can wash them. Just make sure that you dry them thoroughly before you use them again. And they last, they say, something around 12 flights. The other benefit of this fantastic tool that I'm telling you about is that it does help cancel out some noise. So if you are sitting in a loud area of the plane, or if there's perhaps lots of people or children on the plane, it is super, super helpful. So that's one of my favorite things. Another tip I'm going to give you is to always stay hydrated. we know we should stay hydrated. I've got my water with me here, but it may sound gross, but the mucous membranes in your nose that help provide a protective barrier rely on being moist. So it's very, very important that you stay hydrated. And in an airplane where that air is getting recirculated, it is very common for everyone to become dehydrated. Your eyes get dehydrated, then you start touching them. You want to stay hydrated. So I always like to buy a bottle of water that I take onto the plane with me. It also means that I'm the only person touching that bottle of water. And I do always bring some hand sanitizer and some wipes so that I can wipe down the tray and my seat as well. So far, this has kept me pretty healthy, and I'm knocking on wood that I'm able to continue with that. I see a question from Catherine. Yes, do not take off your jewelry. They don't want you to take it off. And if you try, they will tell you to put it back on. You can also refuse to remove your watch. And that is a really important tip. If ever you don't want to go through a specific type of scanning, you can always ask to be searched and they will sort of take you to the side. It can take a little bit longer, but you can be sort of taken through security in the way that is your preference. Oh, Gems Dallas, 100%. This is also why I don't like flying. I'm trying, because I'm having to fly so often, to find the silver linings. Speaking of silver linings, sometimes you do run into some funny, kitschy experiences. In Canada, we have this restaurant called the Canadian Brewhouse Pub. Not sure if any of you have made it there. Maybe some of our Canadians have. But I stopped in for breakfast. I was at the airport at about 4:30 in the morning. They opened at 5. There wasn't much else that was open. And funny little thing about me, I am very particular about forks. I really like a fork that is weighted well in your hand and has really sharp tines. Well, let me share with you the fork that I was given with my breakfast. It is a hockey stick. It had beautiful long tines, but the last thing I expected in the world was to have a very sort of off-weight hockey stick to balance in my hand. It was very amusing, and it's these things that kind of make traveling fun and worthwhile. Jane has been there. Yes, famous for their forks. I was like, oh my goodness, this fork is going to be the bane of my existence. The food was fine though. No complaints there. So it's just funny the situations that you get run into. Charlene feels the same way. I love it. And then last but not least, my hotel room. I love traveling and getting a kitchenette. And now with Uber Eats, you can actually even have Costco groceries delivered, which is amazing. So since I'm here for such a long haul, I put in a grocery order. I've got the ability to cook in my room, which means I'm not constantly ordering in and eating tons and tons of sodium, and I can be able to pack a lunch for work, which I really, really love. But my hotel room experiences, I think I may have a little bit of a curse, and I hope I'm coming off of it. But there's been a number of issues that I've run into in the last month and a half. I've had one room that had sewage backing up in the shower. Got a new room, thank goodness. This time when I checked in, everything seemed to be going pretty smoothly until an alarm went off for about an hour and a half at a room above me. It took them an hour and a half to locate where that alarm was coming from. And it was so funny because I was worried that maybe it was carbon monoxide. There's carbon monoxide detectors in all of the hotel rooms. So being a kitchenette, I was able to find a wooden spoon, and I had to put on my high heels and reach and jump so that I could try to check the alarm to make sure that it wasn't actually carbon monoxide. It was not always good. But then the next morning when it was time to shower, there was no water pressure whatsoever. Something was broken with my shower. So in the end, I was put into yet another room. No complaints, so the hotel has been amazing about that. But funny story, you know how when you have your name presented on the TV, it kind of lets you know that, yes, you're in the right room? Well, this room belongs to Sven. We won't say his last name. I know because his name is on the TV and he and his family are still logged into Netflix. And I should have known, but when I left to do laundry, I ended up getting locked out of the room. They had to do some changes in their system. This is all, in the last week with this specific room. It's kind of funny. Nine more days to go. We'll see how it goes. But if you can't laugh at these things, what do you have? So, it could be worse. I would love to hear if any of you have any interesting room stories. There is a deadbolt on the door for a reason, and I do think it's important to always use those too, especially, women, if you're traveling and traveling alone. They say always accept 2 room keys, so it makes it appear as though there's someone staying with you. And if you do go downstairs to get a takeaway coffee or anything like that, take 2, because it, again, can make it appear like you've got someone that's staying with you too. So just one more little safety tip that is worth passing along. All right. I am trying to stay caught up with all of the chat. We are going to look at some jewelry. Yeah, it could very well be a comedy skit in the making, Charlene. I love your sense of humor. Now, in terms of jewelry, gold and silver, the way the market's heading, I suspect a lot of us are probably not buying gold right now. In fact, the last piece of gold I bought, and I'll show you because I will be sharing it in an upcoming show, was one that was being sold at a pawn shop right before they let us know that they were going to be raising their prices at least 8% because of all of the changes in pricing. Hello, Steph. Good to see you. And so what I ended up buying was a ring that is late Art Deco, and I want to give you guys a little sneak peek because it is a very interesting synthetic stone. This is the ring. It is kind of an orange, peachy red, almost one would say a Padparadscha sapphire color, and it is marked 585. So I have been, and it's upside down here, but I have been doing a little bit of research on that. I'm going to show you a video so that you can actually see it in motion. And you can see that it is an old cushion cut. It's got that open culet in the bottom. And it's really just an interesting ring in 14 karat gold. Let's play this one more time. So, Padparadscha sapphires, it is a very specific hue. It's kind of a peachy orange. It's meant to be the color of the lotus, and they are extremely sought after and rare. This is synthetic, which is how they managed to get that color. But it has sent me down a rabbit hole, and we will definitely be doing a special on Padparadscha, synthetic and natural gems in the very near future. Alas, this is the last piece of gold that I've been buying, and I have actually been dipping back into silver and costume because there's still a lot of good value to be had. Now, I will say there's also good value to be had on gold. The best places that I have found to shop so far have still been the pawn shops and also Etsy and eBay, where perhaps sellers have not yet marked up their prices significantly because they may have gotten a good deal and are still willing to pass it along. Oh, Gems Dallas, I see that you have bought some good things. I'm so sorry, you may blame me, but I am glad that you're finding things. So Pure Blood, that is a period piece. It is not a reproduction, but it is a synthetic stone. So synthetic stones were very, very popular from the Art Deco period. Sapphires in blue were the first ones to be created. And of course, rubies were popular. I shouldn't say they were the first. Sapphires became very popular during the Art Deco period. Synthetic rubies were also among the first to be created. But this color is quite unique. And it's not a color change, but it is bicolor. Thank you for the question. Hello, SMP Biker as well. Now, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite tips when the market gets interesting is to really look to see what artisans are making and focus on the quality of stones, maybe go for a larger stone, something with a little bit less metal. So a piece that I fell in love with recently was a Larimar ring that was made by an artisan. So let me share that with you. There we go. We will click through. Now, Larimar is a very special stone that is found only in the Dominican Republic, specifically in Barona. And Larimar comes in different qualities. And as we click through this, the pattern are sometimes named. If it looks a lot like a turtleback, it will be called turtleback, meaning it's kind of got that geometric look like the shell of a turtle. And when it is translucent or semi-translucent, it is of the highest value, especially if it has what they call the ocean blue color. This one is a bit paler than what is known as ocean blue, but really large stone, which means that you may be able to find something for really, really good value. And then the next thing that I've been looking for is vintage and antique silver. So let's take a look at this and I'll show you the price I paid. It was 85 US dollars. And this is a Burke's sterling duet. So let's take a look. Now, Burke's in Canada, it's like the Tiffany of Canada. So really, really well-known name. And the duets were made famous really by Coro, but there were other companies that were trying to emulate this as well. So these are the sellers' videos. I don't have the piece with me, unfortunately, because I'm traveling, but this shows you a little bit of the brilliantness of the pastes that are in it, as well as the construction. So let's take a peek. We'll look at the back. As you would expect with something that is a duet, it is 2 clips and it's fastened essentially on a brooch finding so that you can wear it a few different ways. You can either wear it as one long and large and in charge brooch, and there you've got an early safety catch, or you can take it apart and you essentially have 2 dress clips, and those dress clips, when worn, would be clipped on your dress in this direction. So really interesting piece and kind of a piece of Canadian history. And so that is where I have kind of been spending my time just checking to see what I can find, what is of reasonable value as well. And now I'm going to share with you some of the vendors that I found that have some really wonderful good value items. So let me prepare to share, and then we're going to do a little bit of virtual shopping. Let's go first to, we're going to go to Etsy. Okay, adding to the stage. The first shop is Renaissance Fair, and I'm going to take you to a few different tabs. This seller is based in New York, and they have a really nice variety of costume jewelry. They do have some in sterling as well. You'll notice there's a few pieces that are reserved, but I have cherry-picked a few pieces that I want to share with you. And again, 4.9 star rating is very good, 2.7K sales, 13 years on Etsy. I always love to see numbers like that. It means you have a pretty good chance of this being a very reputable seller. So first up, on this Renaissance Fair Etsy shop, we have a double flower sterling silver brooch with green rhinestones. And this is a retro piece, retro to mid-century. It's 2.5 inches. And let's get in there and take a good look together. Some might say that it could use a polishing, but it is up to you whether you like that patina or not. I do love that she always styles it so that you can get an idea or a sense of how large this would be when it's worn, as well as in the hand. So it is a really nice size brooch. And there you have it. And so the cost for this one, she's asking $38, which to me feels quite reasonable based on the size. And if you look for comparables, they usually go for $45, $65 and up. So this one is a really, really good value. I'm going to take you to the next listing. She has a Larimar ring, and it is $55. It's a 3-stone size 6.75. Now, this Larimar, I would say it's kind of medium quality in that there is not a lot of translucency. It is a very nice color. This is kind of the true to color that true to screen color that Larimar usually is. It's kind of like a sky blue, but it ranges and it can have white in it. It can also have little bits of brown, and her pictures do show that there are some of these other colors in there, which is why it is $55, which is good value. We'll do some hunting for Larimar, and you'll get to see what some of the other prices for Larimar can look like. But this is quite a nice ring, in my opinion. And again, this is from the same seller, and it is Renaissance Fair on Etsy. Next up, and this I think is a stunning find. This is the one that I don't think is going to even last through the show. We have a 1930s, 1940s sterling silver vermeil huge brooch with aqua glass. Let's take a look at it. It is very large. It's got a nice center stone. You can see how big it is. I love this piece, and I will fully admit that I was very tempted to buy it, but I said to myself, no, Jen, you need to make this available to somebody else. But take a look. It's got some beautiful patina. Now, when you zoom in, I would say that the smaller little tendril that's coming out of the center may have a little bit of either patina or possibly a little vermeil loss, not sure, but the value is definitely there for $45. Nice large size. We'll take a look at the listing size as well, but it is a beauty. So this one is 2 3/4 inches by 2.5 inches and $45. In the US, it's about $5 for shipping, which is also quite reasonable as well. So I think this is a beautiful piece. Next, also on Renaissance Fair, again, I've cherry-picked some beauties. This is another retro brooch. This one has amethyst glass, and it's got some blooms to it. Here we have it, beautiful purple. And then we'll skip through the pictures. It looks like the vermeil is all in very good shape. Again, it's large, maybe a little bit smaller than the others, but it is a beauty. There you see it in hand, a nice large size, and we've got a cartouche that's been applied that says sterling on it. So let's go down to the size. This one's 2 1/4 inches by 1.5. And for $32, again, that is pretty good value. And last but not least, also at Renaissance Fair, we have some vintage apple juice bakelite. I, again, really wanted to buy this, but I sat on my hands and said, no, Jen, this is for someone else who is attending the Sunday brunch. So take a look at these beautiful bakelite beads. They are absolutely gorgeous. They're graduating, and the translucency is beautiful. I love the way the light hits them, and you can really clearly see that in this photo, as well in this photo as well. You know, the effect on the neck, if you're wearing a nice crisp white shirt, so good. I have a similar strand. My beads are a little bit more oblong, but absolutely beautiful. So if you are a bakelite collector, I think this is quite a good value for $119 USD. And again, this is at Renaissance Fair. She has about 342 items. I suspect this is going to drop down a little bit. As some of you get shopping, I will remove this. So take a look. And I have purchased from her. Oh, I'll try to block this light with my head, but it's a beautiful one. All right, I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick, and then we're going to do a little bit of shopping. I am scrolling. It doesn't look like I've missed too much. Charlene has purchased many pieces from my recommendations. Excellent. Oh, and you've been happy with your choices. That is the most important thing. I always would want you to be happy, and I only recommend from those who I've purchased from before, items that have been vetted as well. Hannah, thank you so much for dropping in. Take care. I'll send you an email and we will talk soon. All right. Now, is there anything in particular that anyone would like to hunt for? I am definitely going to pull up some Larimar so that we can take a look at that together. I do think that it would be valuable just to do a little bit of an education on the different qualities of Larimar, and we will do a Larimar video in the future. But it is becoming more and more scarce, in part because the mines have been shut down and some of the highest quality pieces essentially have already been mined out and sold. All right, we have a request for Austro-Hungarian pieces. We can definitely do that. And we will do a little Larimar hunting, and then we'll come back to the chat and see what everyone wants to do. So let's jump into it. I am going to share my screen, and we're going to use gem.app to target many different marketplaces all at once. So as many of you know, I really like gem.app because it pulls from eBay, Etsy, Ruby Lane, First Dibs, many marketplaces, even individual seller websites too, and aggregates it so that you can see results from many spots all at once and then click through on the listing. So that's how we're going to be shopping, just to try to maximize our returns. But I will say, it is important to always directly go to the marketplaces as well, because sometimes things get snapped up very quickly after they're posted, and it takes a little bit of time for that integration between the marketplaces to make it to gem.app and show up for you. We also have a request for chatelaine. So I'm just going to quickly mark that down. We are looking for Austro-Hungarian and chatelaines. Perfect. All right, let's do it. Ooh. Pure blood, yes. There was, I believe, an accident that happened at the main mine, which is why that mine was closed down. And I understand that there's some smaller mines that are still potentially open, but a lot of the high quality materials are no longer available because they've been mined out. So that's exactly why the price of Larimar is expected to continue going up as well. And it is only found in that Barona region, and that's Bahrona of the Dominican Republic. So you are 100% right on that. Now, let's add this, and we are going to gem.app. You can see what I've been looking for, but we are going to look for Larimar first. Let me check my filters. Good. Sometimes I filter just for Canada, or I'll filter for the whole world, depending on what I'm looking for. But you know, when you think about Larimar, it really is this blue, kind of like we see in this heart, that you are looking for. The highest quality pieces are going to have a translucency to them, as well as a very, very strong blue, they call it ocean blue color. But the most important thing is to always buy based on what you love. So I'm just going to do a little bit of scrolling, and we'll see what we can find in terms of good value. And I have had very good fortune in picking up pieces at charity shops, or, you know, in the secondhand stores as well of Larimar. So I suggest looking close to you, because definitely from the 70s onward, people were bringing these back when they started to go to the Dominican. And, you know, those resorts started to become very popular in, I'd say, probably 80s, 90s, and they're still very popular today, but there's less that's available. So let's keep scrolling for a little bit. These are gorgeous. Now, I'm going to click on this one just to give you an idea of what you want to look for. So the color in the center of this stone is exactly what is kind of considered that beautiful ideal ocean blue, but the stone itself is not too translucent. It is expensive, $220. When you buy Larimar, it's important to be able to kind of see the backside as well, so that you can actually make sure that it's the same stone through and through, because there are people who are trying to use resins and other materials to emulate Larimar, because essentially the mines are mined out or it can't be found anymore. So that's one example. This looks like it's a good value. These stones vary in different patterns and colors, and there's a little bit of darker color to some of them. Let's see if we can get in close. Nope. Close back, which is common, but this is an example of an older piece. So I'm going to click on this one. This one's located in Canada. So to my Canadians, it'll be about $100. Right now my pricing is in USD, but I just want to zoom into the second image so that we can take a look at some of the inclusions that one can expect to see in these stones as well. So let's get in there. There we go. So as you can see, there are a lot of sort of natural inclusions, and this stone is known as kind of emulating the ocean, the sky. It's those Caribbean vibes. I believe this picture is just a hint on the yellow side, which is why it looks a little bit more green in this photo than in others. But I like this one, and it works really well as, you know, vacation jewelry or jewelry that sort of emanates the summer. I will close this tab, and we are going to keep going. I'm going to click on this example. So what you do want to look for is whether there are sort of natural inclusions or cracks. You definitely don't want pieces with cracks. And this is where this one I would be a little suspicious of. And if I was interested in it, I would definitely want to contact the seller to ask them in more detail whether it is a crack or just a line. These lines are normal. Cracks are not something that you want. So I would definitely want to just follow up. Be very cautious. We'll scroll through. So as you can see, there's lots available, but not a lot that would be considered in that very, very highest quality. I'm going to take you back to the website of this seller. Now, she is based in Canada. Blue Larimar Art is her name. And she is a native of the Dominican that is now located in Montreal. And she has some gorgeous specimens. So let's take a look at what she has. Now, she is also careful about trying to give information and videos and ratings on her pieces. I'm going to scroll through and let's click through on this one, for example. I believe she has a video. Yes. Now we'll play. So do you see how one side is translucent? You've got the white. You've also got some very, very bright blue. This is an example of a high quality stone. She's calling it AAA out of a rating of 4 A's. Kind of like with pearls and other things, ratings are a little bit subjective, but she does give you a good sort of view of it front and back so that you know what it looks like and also what it looks like when the light catches it. And I'm going to head back to her page and we will take a look. She also has some pendants and other things. Her price ranges really range based on the quality of the stone, the silver. This is a great example of that ocean blue, but again, not with a lot of patterning, which is why the price is kind of high, but middle of the road. This is a beautiful pendant. And I've had my eye peeking on this one for a while. Let's take a look at it together. So this has a nice combination of the blue, the white, as well as translucency, as you can see. All right. I am going to pause here. I'm going to pop back into the chat, and then we're going to look for some chatelaines. So let me pop off. I'm catching up. Hello, Bye Bird Robin. Great to see you. Hollywood. Oh, hey, Holly. Great to see you as well. Search for Napoleon jewels. Yes, maybe we should do that too. And yes, Mar-a-Lago is known for having some absolutely fantastic Larimar. They were one of the first companies to really establish a name in sourcing high quality. And you can find Mar-a-Lago on the secondhand market as well. It is a beautiful, beautiful stone, and they do have great construction. Mar-a-Lago, you know what? Before we look for chatelaines and maybe those Napoleon jewels, let's take a look for Mar-a-Lago because their mark is very clear, and I believe we should be able to find some in gem.app. So let's add to stage. Let's go back here. We are going to go to Mar-a-Lago. I hope I spelled this correctly. I probably won't. Yes, there we go. So this is a mark that you would be looking for. It is essentially the sea turtle, I believe, is what they refer to it as. And this is a beautiful example. It has some translucency. It also has that bright, vibrant ocean blue, as they call it. And it looks a little bit like that turtleback pattern as well. So great call out. Thank you, Barb, for sharing. Now, let's look for chatelaines. And we'll see what we can find. And if you want to give me more specific instructions, by all means, you are welcome to. We're going to click on this one first. This one is being called the Leo Glass Chatelaine Style Brooch Pin, and I would agree with that. This appears to be a little bit of a sort of reproduction in the style of. So if you are looking for something that is more specifically period, maybe let's start with that and see what we can come across. I'm going to click here because this looks interesting. We are going to go to Ruby Lane, and this seller is located in Canada. And then we'll see what we can also find in the US too. Now, Ruby Lane has changed some of their layouts, so let's just click through so that we can see everything. And we're going to click on this image. All right. So this is an interesting one. It's a little bit hard to see without turning your head, but it appears that we have almost an angel who's holding if you've ever been to a Catholic church service where they have incense that is inside almost like a large sphere, that's what it appears they're holding. So this one has kind of a religious theme to it. Let's click through. I could be wrong, and you are welcome to share your input as well as to what you see in these. Beautiful. Okay. Now this one, there's a marking is an old piece. Some of the details are a little bit worn down, but there are markings, as you can see, also on the rings. And let's take a read through about what they say about it. Okay, 19th century Dutch silver chatelaine hallmarked, and they're saying use it as a bracelet. That's one creative way of doing it. It has been modified, and it has figural embossed scenes. Faces are worn. It's 7 inches. The maker's mark that they were able to find is OIN, as well as the sword. And they are saying that this was actually made from Dutch Bible book clasps. Interesting. It does look like a chatelaine, but apparently that is not what it originated as. All right, let us go back and we will look for a true chatelaine. Wow, here's one. And it is a bit steep. We'll click on it nonetheless. This one is also located in Canada. It's an elegant Victorian sterling silver chatelaine with sewing accessory attachments. We'll click through. It's definitely not fully silver, so we can see some copper details for sure on one of the keys. And we have our maker mark there. So I suspect you are looking for a slightly better deal than this, and we are going to keep looking. But it is interesting to see the original measuring tape that is included and all of the sewing accessories. And this seller has also included a wonderful photo of some nurses and how they might wear it, or some women and how they might wear their chatelaines. Let's keep going, and let's see if we can find one that is more of a bargain. We will keep scrolling. Well, as we can see, a lot of the components are often disassembled and repurposed, and sometimes they're sold individually as well, which is, it's always nice to see something get use. However, when you're looking for all original, to see it sort of reused and repurposed can be a little bit disappointing. We've got another example here for almost $4,000. That is astronomical. I believe you can absolutely still find some better values, especially if you do hunting in some smaller antique shops that may be near you. But let's keep looking and see if there's anything that's going to surface of a good value. Now, the other thing that you can do if you use gem.app is you can set notifications for yourself. So all you have to do is hit save search. So let's say you had chatelaine, and then you would do save search. It is going to send it to you in a morning email, or you can change the frequency of that and determine how often you would like it to be sent to you. Here is a better value one. It is a antique silver opium chatelaine for $656, but that's still a little bit on the high side. Now, to be fair, with the changing metal markets and scarcity of antiques, prices are always changing. This one has a compass on it, which is interesting, right at the top. And we will keep looking. See what we can find. At the end of the day, what's important is finding one that has the details that you love. So whether it's sewing themed or something else, this is an interesting one that has a purse as well as a small mirror, a small vial, and a chain as well. This one is on Etsy at Skylar's Atelier, again in Canada. If you're based in the US though, you probably do not want to pay those tariffs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the filter. Let's change the location. We're going to change it to other. And we'll change it to United States temporarily to see what we can find. Now it's going to reshuffle all of the listings and show us some of the things that we've seen in the past, but that's okay. At least we know that they're based in the US, and that way if you are US based, you will not incur that extra tariff, which is the bane of everyone's existence, I understand. Okay, what can we find? Here's an interesting one. So this one has an ebonite watch on it and then some details. It is 421 Canadian dollars. Let's click through and we'll see the US dollar price, which is 300, and it appears on eBay. You can also make an offer on this one. So let's get in close and take a look. There are some initials, and I'm not too sure what this initial is meant to be. We do have a watch. We have a sort of knife, some watch keys. Let's read the description and see what they have to say. It's an estate-found Victorian chatelaine with a 100 pocket watch. Chatelaine is 7 inches in length, 100 grams, 2 keys that wind and set the time. And they say it's a working pocket watch. And what I always love to do, especially when I'm buying watches or other things, is just take a look to see what returns look like. So for this one, we've got, it's Josephus Kosis 0919 as the eBay seller, but you definitely want to check and see what their return policies are, just to make sure that if there is any issue that was associated to the watch functioning, you would potentially be able to return it. So this information is available under returns, usually right under the listing. And it does say that they accept 30 days returns where buyers pays for the return shipping. So could be one interesting option for you. And let's keep going and see if we can find some even better value. Now, this is an interesting one because it is partial. It's a German chatelaine clip with 800 silver, and then you would need to add whatever you would like as your sort of accessories or utilities. Chatelaines really were kind of the original, think of them as Swiss Army knives or iPhones, because they essentially had all of the tools that would be needed by the person that would wear them. All right, let's scroll a little bit longer, and then I'm going to come back to the chat and see what comments I may have missed. It seems like a lot of things are being mislabeled as chatelaines, which is interesting. This is an expensive but Egyptian motif. Quite interesting with a watch. This one's located on Ruby Lane if you're interested. And here is one that is potentially of better value, but it does look like it's perhaps had some work done to it as well. So let's take a look at the Etsy listing. So this one is $219 on sale from Etsy seller Eminow, or EMENOW. And let's read what they're saying about it. It is a sterling wing chair brooch, pearlized knife, perfume bottle or poison bottle, needle or needle safe, all separated. Oh, looks like, hang on a second. You can either buy all or each piece separately. So what does that look like? It looks like the entire set is indeed $229. Okay, so that is good to know. They have some additional chains. Now, she does say that she has assembled this with findings. So depending on if you're looking for something all original or that has been assembled, or perhaps you prefer to assemble it yourself, this may or may not be something that will suit your fancy. And we'll go just a little bit further because I think we're nearing the end of what has been found in this search. But I would definitely recommend setting your own search. Let's tap on this one for a second. This is a vintage sterling silver 10-piece chain. Kind of an interesting idea. Not sure if I actually am buying that it would be antique. But it has sold. So thank you, eBay. That is one of the downsides with gem.app, is that it does sometimes list sold things. And here's another expensive one, but it is quite a fancy Baroque chatelaine with some wonderful repoussé details. Okay, I'm coming back to the chat to see what I've missed. We'll remove this. Let's see. I am going to catch up. Hello, Crazy May. Hello, everyone. Okay. Ooh, Holly, I can't wait to see. Send me an email with what you've managed to get. I am catching up. I know, oh, Gem Dallas, the de minimis, I want it back too. I think everybody does. It helps make life so much easier for sellers, for buyers. Okay, Holly, you wanted one. You've wanted one for 40 years. I'm glad that you've been able to find one. Okay, Deborah is asking for Biedermeier, and we have the request for Austro-Hungarian. So let's do that now. I'm going to add gem.app back to the stage. Boop. By going there, we'll clear out. We'll clear out the USA only. We're going to start with Austro-Hungarian. Oops. I will try to spell at least both words correctly. And we will see what we come up with. Ooh, there's some interesting things for sure. So if you want something in particular, whether it's like a brooch, ring, etc., do let me know. But I'm going to click first on this because this looks interesting. Again, this one's in Canada. Zuzu Bijou, I've actually bought from this seller. She is located in Canada and generally is known to have really nice antique pieces. I bought some coral from her. She says the gems are rubies with tiny rose-cut diamonds and a square barrel at the top, 2.5 inches. The silver tests is 800, but it is not marked, no missing stones, etc. Now, I do love the detail in the back. And this is something that I always like to look for, is to make sure that there's, some beautiful detail, because usually true antique Austro-Hungarian pieces will have this kind of detail where the back, as much effort went into designing it as the front, kind of like you would expect to see in Georgian pieces. I will say that there was a time right around 1900 where in Antwerp there were a lot of almost reproductions at that time being made of antique Georgian diamonds in rings or brooches where they would try to emulate this. But generally, how you can distinguish these pieces as being a little bit newer is because there would be less wear. So I really like the wear that we're seeing in the center of the screen right here on this piece, where it potentially would have been kind of rubbing up against the wear. All right. So this one comes from Zuzu Bijou. Let's see what else we can find. I'm going to scroll. 281 on Ruby Lane. Let's click through at West Willow Antiques. We'll click on Show More and we'll view the description. So this looks like a locket, but it is missing a jump ring. Important to note. What does it say? Now, this one is circa 1920, 1930, so traditional style, but again, a slightly later reproduction than one that was of sort of the 19th century. But again, you've got some beautiful stones that are in here. So if this is, suiting your fancy, it is nice to see that turquoise, the garnet, and the old kind of setting with with this setting kind of pushed in around the stones, which was very common for those Austro-Hungarian pieces as well. Now, let's see what else we can find. I'm going to scroll. Often these pieces will have kind of a very, almost a semi-primitive look to them. So I'm going to click through on this one. Sometimes they have enamel that is either on the front or the back of them. This one is located with Ruby Lane. I do like to see that detail on the back, so let's click through. This one is in Friday's Joys shop. And I've actually bought some beads from her in the past, some opaline beads and rock crystal. So funny how you recognize names over time. So let's take a look through and we'll see what she says this tests as. Now, these pearls feel just a little too modern and like maybe they were added after the fact. Let's see what it says. First, there's a long description. Here we have the measurement. So 1 3/8 inches. Metal is gilded 800 silver. And she's saying that these are indeed pastes, but the center stone tests borderline, tourmaline, and emerald. Now, important to note that she's saying that moving out from the center, there's 4 cultured seed pearls. And again, one would not expect to see a cultured seed pearl in pieces that are meant to be that early. So I do suspect that this one has either had some repairs to it. Maybe I would pass on this one. So let's keep looking. This is an interesting one and rather typical of some of the more religious ones that you may see. From Robin's Roost Antiques. Let's scroll down. She's saying that this is silver with unmarked but tested, and glass stones from around 1870. Now, again, it feels just a little too modern to me with that centerpiece and the quality of the stones, because one would expect that a piece that was antique with that kind of wear that is closed back and has foiling, generally it wouldn't remain quite this vibrant. So that would be a bit unusual. And the enamel is still pretty pristine. So I think I would pass on this one as well. Sometimes when you are looking at antiques or looking for antiques, it really makes a lot of sense to be looking for some wear, because that does help give you the age. If you're just looking for the look, then that's one story altogether. But I would be very cautious if you start to see a lot of the same thing. If you see the same item that is designed in the same way, and if it looks too new and multiple sellers have it, because that potentially tells you that it could be a reproduction or a later piece. And of course, as we've talked about before, everything that is old becomes new again. There were many, many revivals. And so it's really on us to make sure that we understand if the pieces that we're looking at are truly antique or newer. And based on what we're looking for personally, there may be a place for it in our collection, or maybe there's not. So to each their own. I'm going to click on this one. So this one is available on eBay, and we're going to go to eBay and take a look at the listing. So the seller is Sadie's Old Acquaintance, and let's zoom in. Let's make it big. Okay, now something about turquoise. Turquoise, as it collects oil or as it's worn, it does start to change color. So I personally really like to see some of that detail when the turquoise stones go a little bit darker or go a little bit green. That doesn't bother me at all. Now, if stones look too perfect, too pristine, I also wonder is this a true piece? Was there any kind of repair to it? So I like the look overall, but let's take a peek at the back of this one. So the construction, it's got some old riveting, and I would say that this is probably going to be a little bit on the later side. So not really like the 1860, 70. I think it's going to be a little bit later than that, possibly into the early 20th century. But it is a fairly nice example, as it should be for this price. There's only a buy it now, but you may be able to reach out, negotiate, and see if they might take less. Now, what else can we find? Enamel pieces like this are hard to find, and there's more reproductions. And I'm not saying this is a reproduction, but there are definitely more that are being made, and they're starting to come up. So just something to be aware of. Make sure that you buy from sellers that you trust, especially if you're choosing something like this. Sometimes they come with Baroque pearls that are incorporated into the design as well. As we've often talked about, antiques are things that they are not making any more of. So if you start to see things that look too new or too many that are identical, it's likely because there's a hot market, and people are aware of this and sometimes try to take a little bit of advantage. Okay, let's see what else we can find. So these are some of the ones to be on the look for. Sometimes they are true antiques and sometimes they are reproductions. There are some very, very talented makers that make them intentionally as reproductions. So it's always good to go in, look for wear, know what you're looking for, see the enamel technique, and should you invest in a piece like this, it is always worthwhile to have it reviewed by an appraiser. Make sure there's a good return policy so that if anything doesn't quite line up, you are protected. Always want to make sure that your investments are protected. This is a fairly typical design that one would see in some Austro-Hungarian necklaces, bracelets. You see sort of that emerald garnet colored stones, beautifully positioned. And it is an expensive investment piece now in history. Okay, I am going to pop back into the chat and see where we are at in terms of questions. I have about 1 million tabs open now. Okay, I see a question from Christina asking, what is the name of the site that I'm on? So I'm going to type it and put it into the chat. It is gem.app. There we go. We'll be coming through in just a second. Barbara saying Temu. That is not the site you want to be shopping on. If you are shopping on Temu, you are definitely getting a reproduction. So gem.app there, I'll just pull it up so that you can see it. That is the name of the aggregator site. And it pulls from Ruby Lane, Etsy, eBay, First Dibs, individual sellers. If you are a seller, by the way, you should reach out to gem.app and make sure that they are taking a feed from your site. Yes, Temu does make a lot of fakes. It is brutal. And, you know, I'm not one to talk a lot about pop culture because it's not really something that I spend much time on. I'm not really interested in. But as you are all likely aware, Taylor Swift is engaged. Taylor Swift has an antique cushion cut ring and interest in antique diamonds, and even what they are has absolutely ballooned. And I think we can expect to hear more and more about people looking for them. What we've seen for many, many years now is that even with lab-made diamonds, they've been cut into the antique style. So it's really important to understand what you're buying, who you're buying from, understand how you can test things. And a lab diamond versus a natural diamond are virtually identical, but there's a few things you can do to try to understand how it was made. But we're heading into very dangerous territory where it is hard to know what you have unless you've done some education too. All right, I'm going to remove that comment here and just remind everybody, we are going to do a draw for a mug, which I do not have in my hotel room. So please make sure you comment #win all caps. And I'm going to throw that as a banner. There we go, up. But please do, and that way you'll be entered to win. I do see a question. We've got Pureblood asking, do I think gold antique jewelry will become very scarce? Yes, I absolutely do. So Ray, great question. First thing to keep in mind, anytime the price of gold really balloons, and it is at an all-time high and rising, this often incentivizes people to sell their pieces, especially if they're heavier pieces. And that puts, our antiques and our vintage pieces at risk of essentially being melted down purely for their intrinsic value. So that is one factor that is going to impact the scarcity. And then, of course, the other piece is the pieces that are available, because they will essentially be becoming more scarce, harder to find, and they're growing in value just because of the intrinsic value. They're going to become more and more costly as well. And I suspect that you've got some collectors that are going to hang on to their pieces for dear life. You have those who were holding on to them but planning to save them for a rainy day, sell them off, and hopefully there's going to be a strong enough economy that these pieces can be recirculated and continue to be part of the inventory that is available for collectors to buy, but it is really hard to say. Ray, you're absolutely right. It is a bit of a travesty. And what's scary is that often people say, oh, well, it's not an antique piece. It's just a piece from the 70s, the 80s, etc. If it's mass produced, and this is maybe where I have a split mind, I mind less if it's a very generic design, if it's, a ring that was bought at Costco where the stone's being pulled out and being resold and the metal's being melted down. But if it's an artisan made piece, if it's a piece of our kind of cultural history, then I really hate to see those pieces get melted down. So I would strongly recommend to any of you, if you are not a seller, but you're thinking of selling, try to work with a seller. Try to see if maybe someone will take your pieces on consignment, because not only will that maximize the return that you receive so that you're not just getting melt or just below melt value, the piece itself has a chance to survive too. But not a lecture. Everybody has to do what they have to do in this economy to make sure that they're taking care of themselves and their families. But yes, scarcity is a very, very real thing. Yes, Barb, big box jewelry. And what's interesting is that there's a lot of conversations going on where some big box jewelry brands are trying to figure out how they're going to keep their margins intact. And so they're talking about potentially doing more gold-plated, like gold-plated copper or gold-plated on silver, or, moving to having more silver lines of jewelry. So I suspect we have had a resurgence of yellow metals for a little while. The pendulum may start to swing back towards white, and we might start to see more silver as well. I'm just going to catch up on these comments. Yes, you would think that they could sell them for even more with original design. Absolutely. But sometimes people don't have the patience or the time to wait or to find the right person or group to sell it to, unfortunately. Yes, Ray. I love that you became involved with jewelry collecting to try and stop items from being melted. It's part of what sticks with me too. And sometimes when you see a piece, you're like, I have to snap this up, because the alternative, seeing it get melted, is just a no-no. I'm gonna do something before we do the mug draw. I'm gonna pull up my past wish list that I had been storing on gem.app, and we're gonna scroll through a few months so that you can all see it, because there's a couple of pieces in there that have not been marked up by the sellers that are selling them that are in pretty good value. So if anything catches your eye, by all means, if you've got the budget for it, I would definitely grab it. Let's take a little sneak peek. I'm going to share this and we will look at my wish list. So what you're able to do, and you can see what I've been looking at lately and what I've been saving, is that you can pin things And I'm going to scroll down because there's one brooch that I have in mind. You can see where my brain's been at. I was looking at all sorts of different woven rings, woven bracelets. I was looking at lorgnettes for a while. Rubies are always on my mind. It makes me smile to know that some of these pieces have found homes. This is the one I'm sure you may all remember that got away. I had bought it for like $200 and the seller canceled my sale and put it back up for much, much more money. But anyhow, it makes me smile that these earrings got a home. They were quite incredible, retro. They almost look like they have like little bullets or bombs hanging from them. And I'm really glad that they found a home. They were very interesting. But down here somewhere, here's me and my zircon search days, Amazonite, which we will be talking about soon as well. But what I'm looking for in specific, spiders. I want to say this was last Halloween where I was on a hunt for all the spider jewelry that I could find, whether they were brooches or necklaces, peridot. This one I know is sold, but there is somewhere down here a lot of retro watches. Those are big on my wish list. I love tracking them to see when things sell, how much they sell for, if they end up available for sale again. There is a brooch somewhere in here, and I'm going to find it soon. I feel like it's going to be coming up. It is an enamel brooch. Here it is. So this one's available in the United States, and it is on Etsy with Silver Queenie ink. It's beautiful. It's an 18 karat gold French brooch with enamel, a stunning 2 pearls in there. Let's take a look at it together. The price with the conversion, well, actually it's $345 USD. And I believe, if memory serves, this one is about 3 grams of gold, 3.1 grams. So it is 1.5 inches long. Let's just zoom in, take a look at it. You can see the enamel's in quite good condition. We've got a lovely lilac as well as a pink. We've got 2 beautiful pearls. We have marks as one would hope to see, French marks, some old kind of riveting style design. We've got more marks as one would hope to see on the clasp too. So really a nice brooch, good history to it. It is signed by PD in 2 places. So 3.1 grams of 18 karat gold. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's just pull up gold calculator. And we're just going to use the scrap gold calculator. And we're going to do 3.1 grams of 18 karat. Whew, gold at 4251. And I did something wrong. The value and weight scrap, blah, 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 is not a number. And that's because I put a comma. So in Quebec, we use commas instead of decimals. Okay, so the total gold value here is $317.80. And it is $345. And it's in one basket now. So Silver Queen ink on Etsy. If you like this, and I think it's a really, really beautiful brooch. There's something about it that makes me think of lilacs and spring and, you know, beautiful flowers. This is not a bad value whatsoever. So think about it. I'm going to pop back into our chat. I have way too many tabs open now, so this may take me a moment. Allow me to close some of our tabs so that I can get back to you. There we go. Remove. Perfect. And now I'm back. Okay, let's catch up on where we are at. Michelle is saying she regrets selling some of her silver pieces to buyers. I understand exactly what you're saying, Michelle. I know when my parents sold their house a few years ago, I'm going to try to block out this bright light. They had a set of silverware, and it's quite a few years ago now, probably 15. And I know that this got sold probably for far under what it was worth at that point in time and what it would be worth today. And there's a very good chance, because not a lot of people really have, the china, the glassware, the crystal, the silver in order to entertain anymore. So I suspect that it was probably melted down as well, which is very sad. And I agree. It's nice when we can be cautious and kind of pick and choose who we sell to at the time. But as you say, sometimes you need the money. And at the end of the day, you can't fault yourself for that. So, lessons are learned so that we don't repeat the same thing and so that we can share them, but don't beat yourself up too hard, whatever you do. Charlene, I agree with you. I also love enamel jewelry. And I'm just going to catch up. Yes. Delia, I feel the same way. Sometimes when I see those notices, it's like, but is it really in someone's basket? And I have found that if I'm browsing both on my phone and on my computer, sometimes you see that the person that is browsing is actually you. So if you follow through to check out to see what the shipping cost potentially is going to be, sometimes it's you that is like creating this infinite loop. I've had situations where I've added something to a basket, removed it, saved it, etc. And I myself had made it seem like 3 buyers are looking at an item, which is just me at the end of the day. Yes. All right. I am just going to catch up. Pureblood is saying that we have a much better chance of buying a piece of gold with multiple stones because scrappers don't like stones. Agreed. Keep your eyes open. That is what I'll say. Scrappers don't like stones. There was this one Etsy seller who is part of a, let's call it, pawn shop group. Smashing Gold is her name. And she also has an Instagram account. And what they do is they put items for sale at 30% above melt. And if the item doesn't sell within a given period of time, they literally smash the piece, remove the stones, melt down the gold. That's all I can say. There were some videos that were posted online at one point in time because I think that was the way that the company was trying to show us, like, no, we're really going to do it. This isn't just a line that we're feeding you, but oh my God, don't show me. Don't tell me about it. Don't show me. Anyways, all right. We are going to check to see how many people have entered for the giveaway. Give me 1 second and we'll share that screen. And then we are going to do the giveaway for the mug. Allow me to check and see where we are at. Goodness gracious, I have far too many tabs open. There we go. Okay, we have 23 entries. So I am going to count to 10 and we are going to do the draw. Let's do it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I now see that we're at 24, which I love. 3, 2, 1. And should it happen to pull my name from putting the post up, just a reminder, then we give the person who wins not only a mug, but also $100 by PayPal. So you should all cross your fingers that my name comes up first as Sundae Baubles. Good luck to everybody. Let's do the draw and see who's taking home the mug today. Good luck to you all. And the winner is, and I'm preparing my pen, Michelle Bradley. Congratulations. Michelle, if you will kindly send me an email at sundaybaubles@gmail.com, that would be perfect. And I will be able to get this shipped out to you. Good news for everybody, there will not be any tariffs for the winner because it will ship from your country. So not to worry for that at all. Now, before we go today, just a reminder, our next live is scheduled for November 9th, and that is a structured live where we talk about retro gems. I will be talking about retro gems from North America as well as Europe. It's going to be a really interesting show. We've got lots of examples to talk through and the evolution from the 1930s through 40s into the mid-century. What was the sentiment and the shifts, the metals, the stones. It should be very, very exciting. Barb, I will keep an eye open. I would absolutely love to see those pieces. And I'd love, before we go, just to get some feedback. What did you think of this sort of casual approach to a Sunday brunch? Because it's easier for me to do these than to do the prepared presentations. And if you enjoyed this and want me to do them more frequently, maybe we do a casual one every 2 weeks and then a more prepared one every month. I can make that happen. That is a lot easier for me than doing the full-on presentations. So let me know what you think, because your feedback is valuable. And I want to do whatever the community is looking for. It's always nice to have the connection, and I have really missed you all. It is wonderful to see you all and to have a chance to catch up. Ray, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Deborah too. Okay, excellent. Then maybe we should keep doing these. All right, we will. The crowd has spoken. It was very fun for me too, and it is a pleasure to get to spend time together. Thank you for your patience as I travel, and truly, I wasn't joking when I said, some gems and jewels and jet lag. There's a little bit of that going on, but hey, we can roll with it if you're willing to be patient with me. Amazing. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate all of you. If you need anything at all, please email me, sundaybaubles@gmail.com. Scheduled live on Retro November 9th, and we will be having our next casual live 2 weeks after that as well. We'll see you again very soon. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you for being here. Take care.